Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for getting me on.
Yeah, mate, I'm glad to make this happen. I've been hearing a lot about you, mainly from actually people within the industry, buyers agents, saying, mate, you gotta watch this bloke, Jamie. He's carving up. So you're creating a good name.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
At what stage of life, I'm just curious, like growing up in your adolescence, did you realise that you had the ability to play professional footy?
Well, I pretty much played when I was under sevens, and I've got a 6-year-old boy who's just started to wanting to kick the footy with me. Before then, he didn't want to. So I was pretty much 7 and played with it like a local team. I was always okay, and then really up until before I was 18, I just really flourished. And then I was fortunate enough, the Brisbane Lions had a priority pick where they could pick a player up within a 50k radius from the Gabba. And this was before the draft, like as in you get picked up before the draft. And at the time, they were trying to get Nick Rewald, who ended up getting picked up number 1 in our draft that year, but he didn't want to go. And he sort of knew there was a bit of prestige that he could possibly go. Number 1 pick, plus Brisbane weren't travelling all that well at that stage. And anyway, I was fortunate enough, Lee Matthews, who was the coach at the time, called me up not before the draft, and he said, do you want to come to Brisbane? And sat in the lounge room with my parents, and they said, do you want to go to Brisbane? And I said, yeah. So we went and signed the paperwork the next day, and then it was a case of sort of sliding doors a little bit, because then the draft happened. And then the thing about the AFL draft is you can get picked up anywhere. And to be honest, I had a feeling that I'd get picked 13 and went to Adelaide. So things could have been very, very different if Brisbane didn't pick me up. So I was fortunate. My first 4 years at the football club, we were in a grand final every year. So I was very, very fortunate.
Unreal, mate. That sounds great. And I guess where you are now, obviously running a buyer's agent business, like you've obviously got, I think, quite a cocktail of ingredients. You worked on the sell side, you worked in tenant repping, you've done developing, and obviously now you're a buyer's agent. Do you feel like that's really helped shape your competitive advantage to where you are now?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. At the time when you go through those different sorts of things, you don't, like, whether it was the outcome. It was funny when I actually did it, like at the end of your career, they have a careers counsellor who sits down with you, and they map out, what career you want to be in and what suits you and what suits your personality. And obviously I love property, loved helping people. And at the time when I finished football, and this was back in 99, they came up with a buyer's agency. And at the time I went, I don't really want to be a buyer's agent. I know, what's that? And I remember it specifically. Anyway, I obviously didn't think about it for literally, pretty much 10 years after that, So it's, 14 years after that, actually. So anyway, what ended up happening was I sort of went from different roles, went to open up a Ray White agency, actually, and had that on hold. Wanted to work at Ray White for 2 years. And then eventually I just watched someone, a girl called Lauren Moore, actually, do the buyer's agency side of things. And I thought, look, I love helping people, love property, and why don't I give this a go? And at that stage, I was sort of working at Ray White. And look, it was amazing, and, it was a great base for me. Obviously, did the U-turn and opened up my buyer's agency, obviously before COVID. And we sort of started before COVID. COVID happened, and then I thought, what have I done? And then literally the calls just started coming in from different contacts from overseas, and networks that I had were sending their family members. And we had a big contingent from Singapore, Hong Kong, all coming home, and they were all sort of stuck in COVID, and they were all stuck overseas, and we were sort of buying in places here in Brisbane.
That's unreal. What's it like when you are getting out of the sporting world as a professional athlete? Like looking back with your mates who have exited, do a lot of them end up getting into running successful businesses or working for successful firms? And I guess being very successful in their other professional career?
Yeah. That's a good question. In 28, there was 28 guys who played in the premiership from 01 to 03. There were 3 premierships, 28 players. At one stage, there was 22 players still in football. So there was only sort of 6 that were doing their own thing, and a couple end up being builders. But in some capacity, they were either assistant coaches, had gone into list management, had gone into commercial side of businesses. And that's still pretty strong today. Literally, there's 4 senior coaches out of my group. So we're all coaching big clubs. You know, you've got Craig McRae at Collingwood. You've got Brad Scott at Essendon. You've got Michael Voss at Carlton. And then Chris Scott, at Geelong. So, and then Justin Lethbridge was also out of that group, was a senior coach at Brisbane. So it's a pretty amazing area that you get 5 senior coaches and 4 that are still in the system, still coaching at AFL level, which is pretty cool. So we've got our 20-year reunion on this year for the 2003 premiership. So that's very special, and we get to catch up. And you know, we've all gone in different careers, and you know, and doing different things. But one thing is that we got to play on grand final day in front of 90,000 people at the MCG, and that's one thing I do hold on to a lot, which is, it's just an amazing thing. I go down every year, take a group down every year, and it's one thing I hold dear in terms of my playing career.
Yeah, nice. I mean, you strike me someone who's good at building relationships, good at networking, and it seems like you've been very strategic from what I can see, where you've leveraged that from your previous career, and you've now injected it into this new career as a buyer's agent, and that seems to be working very well for you.
Yeah. I think it's always been relationship focused, and that's what I tell my guys in the year all the time. It's just relationships and build relationships. It's probably the reason why we've transacted, you know, multiple times, you know, 5, 6, 7 times, 20 times for different clients here in Brisbane. So, and it's just keeping those relationships really strong. You know, I certainly think I did the hard yards early, going to a lot of functions, and you know, dealing with corporates. And I was also commercial manager for a number of years. So, look, all those networks and things that have built over the years have certainly come into fruition with this business. Like it's been amazing. Most of the people that we look after are friends of friends. You know, previous relationships that we're, you know, corporate relationships that I've had. Pretty much everyone that we look after, we've got some sort of connection with, which has been pretty special. And probably that's the reason why we transact a lot, and we've built a good network for ourselves in this Brisbane market.
I think it's pretty special for you know, an entrepreneur, a new business owner in any industry, to start a business, and all the business is coming just through your network.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty special, pretty unique.
Yeah. Someone did say to me the other day, "Are you doing any SEO stuff?" I said, "Well, we're not actually, because we're pretty busy with referrals and people referring after they've bought and things like that." So look, that's I think, you know, it's one thing I'm really proud of as a business, and one thing I'm really proud of the guys that I work with here, that we do get, you know, a number of referrals off people after they do purchase. So it is a nice thing about this industry. It's a great industry. Like it's probably the most comfortable. I'm actually more comfortable in this industry than I was playing football. And the most happiest I've been. You know, like, football's great, and you know, you're fit, you're healthy, you're running around every week and competitive, and that's a great part of it. But look, you know, in terms of the stimulation, the mental stimulation, and the job satisfaction, look, this is by far outweighs what I've done in footy.
You said the word competitive. I mean, you're obviously a highly competitive person with your previous career. I mean, surely that drive and that discipline that you've developed over the years as an athlete, I'm assuming you've really brought that into this new career, right?
Yeah, look, it's funny. I was super, super competitive when I played, like, to the point where, you know, I probably got a bit out of hand at times in terms of ended up at tribunal a lot of the time when I played. It's funny. I'm sort of a lot more chilled than when I used to be when I played. So But I think the main thing is just moving. You've got to be constantly moving with the times, the market, all those sorts of things, Ben. And when you asked me to come on, I was sort of thinking, what are the things in this buyer's agency business? And you just got to be constantly moving and hustling, and that's what I was like as a player. I can't say I was the most strategic player, but I was very much a bash and crash, and would be constantly chasing the ball down and constantly trying to move the ball downfield as best I can. And that's one thing that I've sort of brought into my business is just constantly being on the phones, constantly active and picking up the phone and just talking to people. Is one of the things, instead of texting, instead of emailing, just speaking to people all day, and that builds trust. As the old saying, frequency builds trust. And it's one thing that we, I think, I've sort of prided myself on the business.
Yeah, real estate, it's not an easy industry. I think a lot of people see the shiny teeth, shoes, cars, watches, all that stuff. I know it's not for everyone, but I think a lot of people see that and think that, this industry is easy, but I guess it's lucrative, but it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to constantly be on all the time. I think, look, one thing probably with my background is that football's not like 9 to 5. You're playing on a Saturday night. You're still doing recovery till late at night. You're waking up in the morning. You're in the pool the next day. Then you're at all odd hours, different hours, training late at night. Just training late in the evening sometimes. So, look, it's sort of like the 9 to 5 never really suited me. So, look, it fits in with our life. I've got 3 kids. It's, they have to sort of move with the business as well, because, sometimes you're getting home and you're getting 8 calls at 6 o'clock because most of your clients are finishing work and they want to talk about property. So it is odd hours, but also it can be very rewarding as well. In terms of the people look after, like, I certainly think this is more rewarding than the sales side of things, and working for Ray White, because you get to spend time with people intimately for, sometimes months, in terms of trying to find them a home. And when you can find them the exact thing that they're wanting, and, they've been desperate, they've been searching around for 6 months, a year, it's really, really rewarding. Sometimes the smaller deals are the ones that you get the most out of when people are most desperate to purchase a home. So that's the things that, you do enjoy, and you got to celebrate the wins. Like, I think so many people just get caught into the process, and, but sometimes you got to sit back and look at the wins and celebrate the wins on the way through. And I think it's something that we sort of try and do here is constantly, have great energy, but just celebrate the wins when they come in, and celebrate people's success.
Talking about wins and celebrating wins, you purchased Brisbane's most expensive resi property. I think that was 20.5, right?
Yeah, it was. It's probably a little bit different to some of the Sydney siders in Melbourne properties, but yeah, Brisbane, obviously it's very much a growing market up here, and 20.5. Yeah, it's not a small number. So it was great to, and that was a client that sort of come to us. So he's a really unique sort of character, and we end up buying him something that was off market, that no one sort of seen or no one had been through, and it was a pretty amazing home.
How'd you celebrate that bad boy?
We caught up a couple. He's actually become a really, really good friend. Not because he's got the highest price either, but we've actually caught up a fair bit since the purchase. So we've been catching up, and look, he'll probably be one that I'll have a friend for the future, because we've just got on so well during that process. And it's an old heritage home actually on New Farm. It's this really unique heritage home right on the river in New Farm, which is New Farm's literally like 2K, 2Ks or 1.5 Ks from the city. And it's this unique home that was built in 1893. So much history about it, and he's a pretty much a guy with a partner, and they're moving into this big heritage home, and it's sort of been a bit of a dream for him to own such a home.
That's awesome. And I guess that's the perks of real estate, right? Like you were saying earlier, you get to work with clients for a period of time and you build these deep relationships. And in this case, this might be a mate for life. That's unreal. And I guess leading into my next question is, you said that purchase was off market. What percentage of properties typically would you purchase in a year that are off market?
Yeah, we're sitting in, funny, so we did our we did our numbers the other day. We're sitting about 85% off market. So we try and transact a lot of things that are not on the market. I think we try and be a buyer's agent, work harder to find the things that, you know, no one else can find or no one else can see. So in terms of our numbers, yeah, we do transact a lot. So they're the things that you don't see on realestate.com or domain as well.
That's huge. 85% is massive.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's a lot of time on the phones too. And a lot of relationship building too. You know, like the thing about, you know, like this industry, you're gonna have good relationships with agents, and we do get called into a lot of things because because they got relationships. And we're very lucky in that way.
What percentage of your buyers are local versus interstate?
A lot of local at the moment. There's a lot of frustrated buyers, and the market's sort of changed up here. Like the renovators have definitely pulled back. Higher end finished product is still really strong. Units and townhouses are flying. So everyone's trying to get into either a unit or townhouse, and that comes from like the vacancy rates up here, even in Brisbane. You know, in houses is 1.2% vacancy rate in houses, and then in units is 0.7%. So, you know, you still look at the numbers for some of these units, and it still stacks up. You know, it's almost cheaper to still buy rather than rent in some of these areas that are close to the CBD. So that market's been really strong for us. The high-end finished product is also really strong.
You made a comment earlier, just to touch back on it, around in this career of yours as a buyer's agent, seems like you're happier compared to your previous career. Why is that? Like, why are you getting more fulfillment? Out of curiosity, like, what is it specifically?
Yeah, well, I just think look, even when I was playing footy, I was always just sitting on realestate.com, did some small projects. My dad was a builder, so and I think I ended up doing probably around 6 or 7 projects while I was playing footy, just on the side, little splitters and things like that. So, and then with the players when they were buying, I used to just go around in the car with them and sit in the car and take them around to different places that were on market, off market, those sorts of things, because I was already doing it. I was already hustling for different properties, and carpet rustling, I used to call it. So some old agent said to me, he said, "Hey, you're a traditional carpet rustler." So I used to go all the opens on Saturdays. I just had a love for real estate property, so I've always had that. So it was just, you know, it was something that I was already doing, you know, and some of the times there used to be new coaches, even the new coach, Chris Fagan, when he came to town, I was showing him around properties. You know, I was working in the commercial side of the business, but I was showing him around all the properties around where he should purchase. So I've always sort of been in that space. But look, I think, you know, in terms of the level of passion that I'll do is that just I'm stimulating. You know, it's a passion of mine. When you're actually passionate about something, you're doing what you love. I'm really fortunate.
That's unreal, mate. That's really good. And so I'm looking behind you, and it says, I can see the word management. So I know we had a chat earlier, but it looks like you've plugged into PM and you've kicked off with a bang.
Yeah, we sort of started just over a year ago, and we've grown to around sort of 64, 65 properties. And look, it's been a really good transition from buying, you know, some investment properties, or lots of flats, which we've done a lot of, and then putting them straight into our rent roll. And because we've got that relationship already with a lot of our buyers, and we've spent months with them, it's just a really easy transition for us to then look after them on the management side. So I sort of, when I had the business, I was sort of giving the property management. When I first started the business, I was giving property management to friends and things like that who owned rent rolls. And then I was like, I gave 8 to a friend of mine in about 2 months. And I was like, what am I doing? Well, I should be doing this myself. So, and that's how it sort of came about. And since then, it's been a really good part of our business and a key part of our business, and it's just, now we can sort of look after, obviously, the full suite and after the buying side all the way through to, finding someone to rent the property as well.
That's unreal. So have you got a healthy balance of owner-op versus investment with deal transactions?
Yeah, look, we do a lot of principal plays, but we also do investment as well. So it's a really good balance. Obviously, the principal place is certainly a lot more emotional. You spend be a lot more time with those guys, but I think those ones are can be really, really rewarding as well. As I said before, the investment side, we've bought a lot of blocks of flats and things like that. So it just was an easy transition for a lot of these guys, and we're buying multiple properties with some of these clients as well. So they know that we're in safe hands, and they'll be.
With a lot of the potential, you made a comment earlier that a lot of your clients are local. When you're sitting in front of them, have they made a decision that they are using a buyer's agent, whether it's you or someone, or are you having to educate and help them, make that decision?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix of both, actually. Look, some people, and I think obviously with the referral side of things with our business, a lot of people already know about the buyer's agency, or they've been, or their friends had an experience and spoken about it, things like that. So they're probably warmer leads than the ones that were just the cold calls that come in and or they, the referrals that may come in from the outside. There you have to sit down and really explain the process to them. I certainly think since COVID, it has put the buyer's agency space on the map. There's no doubt. It's been a really good, it's been a really good, I should say, service for people who just haven't had the ability to purchase. So that's really put it on the map and made it known to a lot of people. So that has certainly helped to look, and you probably say the same thing in your business as well. But it's certainly in Brisbane. It's still slow moving, but it's certainly on a lot more people's radar, especially with some of these harder suburbs to move into. People just can't find the properties, and they want to move into these suburbs, but they just can't find the opportunities.
Yeah, definitely agree with, during COVID, buyer's agents, the awareness has grown a lot. I think people couldn't physically get to places. I saw a massive shift in that period. Kind of dead when I was in it, I felt like, just around the awareness. And then COVID, it just blew it up, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So maybe what's the focus for Charman? I mean, it seems like your company is doing unreal things since you've launched in terms of your market share and how you operate and just what you're doing, especially building in property management, which not a lot of buyers agents do. I know we talked earlier and you said, you've got another team member who's helping out in an area that you haven't been servicing. What is the plan for FY24?
Yeah, I think certainly if we can sort of look to people in those areas that we haven't been sort of servicing as much as what we could have, I certainly think that's the main focus. Look, for me, it's not about getting huge. I think with buyers agencies, the boutique works and the independency works. If you get too big, then you start to get crossover of your own clients within the business. You get multiple agents looking after multiple clients, but they're all looking in the same area. So you end up sort of competing against. You end up sort of competing in, say an area like New Farm. You end up competing. You've got 4 agents from the same agency all competing with different clients for the same piece of stock. I think you're always going to be careful this is my take on it. You always got to be careful how big you actually go. Look, at the moment, that sort of boutique agency sort of works for us. We deal with a lot of higher end property, but we also, we've bought in the last month, we bought a $20.5 million property and we purchased a $400,000 unit. So, for us to get the full spread is really important. But just as I said, the relationships are really important to us. I don't think we need to be a massive, huge business that's going to take over the world. I think you lose that. You lose those relationships when you're just too big. So for us, and it's really important to stay, grounded and just grow really slowly.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective, and I agree with what you said earlier around the boutique. I think the buyer's agent model is suited for boutique and independence for sure. I think that's spot on. So, question just regarding, I guess your branding and your reputation now. Like, obviously, my understanding that you've really started to jump into the prestige space, and you're doing a lot of significant transactions within that. I guess, space of the real estate industry for buyers agents. Do you find some clients come to you and think, well, if they've got the 400 grand, like you said, or the 500, are they thinking, oh, you're too expensive for me, or, I'm not the right fit?
Like, I think sometimes you post some of the big sales because they're exciting and things like that. But we post the small stuff as well. But when they see the big stuff, some people can't get intimidated. But it for us, we'll work with a certain amount of clients. Like, as a smaller agency, you can't be sitting there and say that you're looking after relationships and having, I've got 20 clients to look after myself. Like, it just, it's not a business model. So for us, that doesn't matter what sort of price range it is, just to really just focus in on, anywhere from up to sort of eight clients at a time. So, and that's one thing that we sort of stick close to. So, and it enables you to actually transact really quickly too. So, instead of, spending months and months with a buyer's agent, you're able to sort of find something within weeks, if not in the month. It is something that we want to sort of focus on and keep those buyers lists quite low. But, it just doesn't really matter who comes through our door, whether they're sitting at 600,000, 800,000 to $7-8 million. It's, for us, it's just, they go through the exact same process, whether it's high end or low end. And that's really important for us.
What is your, if you know off the top of your head, your average time frame from when you engage with a client to when you exchange?
Yeah, it was sort of sitting around 38 days. It sort of popped out a little bit to about 45 days on average. They're all different. Some, we're like something that's really specific. And sometimes people come to buyer's agent because they need something really specific, whether it's a 36-metre tennis court in Ascot in Clayfield, and there's only 153 courts that are about 30 metres long. So you've got to try and find, the needle out of the haystack. They might take a little bit longer, and, they might take, 6-month period to sort of find. So it's really just, it's really specific in terms of what we look after and who we look after. But, one thing we try and do is we try and talk to our clients every day, or every second day at least, and be communicating with them all the time. That's one thing we do. Smaller lists and talking to them constantly is a great way, as I said, to build trust, but also it enables you to get a feel for what they're actually wanting, because it does take a couple of weeks until you're spending that time with them to actually get to know and get to really understand what they're looking for. You can sit down and do a brief every day of the week, but until you get them in the car and you're spending a couple of weeks with them in the car, showing around different opportunities, then you actually get a feel for what they need, what the family needs, all that sort of thing. So that's really important for us.
I love that, mate. On that note, we're going to close out. Well done, mate. You've built a remarkable business. It's clearly very high touch. You're only working with that lower concentration of clients, and obviously the amount of off markets that you're buying and just what you're doing. It's impressive, and you're setting a real standard. So, mate, I just want to say well done and enjoyed this chat.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.